You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley with Insurance for Texans. We help church leaders protect their people and property with wisdom and clarity. Today, I want to talk to a group that often gets overlooked in church insurance conversations, and that is church associations. Recently, we spoke with leaders from a local Baptist association that thought they had things pretty well dialed in. They had a central office where they hosted meetings, supported member churches, and handled administrative work. They also owned a campground about 90 minutes away that was used year-round for youth camps, retreats, and weekend gatherings. From the outside, it looked like a great setup. Then the insurance renewal arrived. As the board reviewed the policy, questions started piling up. If someone got hurt at the campground, whose insurance responded? Did all those youth events need additional coverage? And why was the association listed under one of the local churches instead of being insured in its own name, even though it was a separate nonprofit? That meeting was the moment they realized something important. Church association insurance is not the same thing as church insurance. When an association owns property, it needs its own commercial property coverage. That policy protects buildings, land, and the contents inside them from things like hail, fire, theft, and storms. In this case, the office in town and the campground were two completely different locations with two very different risk profiles. Relying on a member church's policy simply didn't work because the association, not the church, owned the property. Then there was liability. Liability coverage protects the association if someone is injured on their property or claims damage caused by something tied to the association's operations. That campground was used constantly, often by groups the association wasn't directly supervising. Even so, ownership meant responsibility. If something went wrong, the association could still be pulled into a claim. What surprised the board even more was learning they also needed directors and officers coverage. The board was making financial decisions, approving policies, and managing assets. Not everyone always agrees with those decisions. That type of liability protection gives leaders the freedom to serve without worrying that one hard call could turn into a personal legal problem. Shared use turned out to be one of the biggest blind spots. When multiple churches and groups use association-owned property, risk multiplies quickly. A bunk bed accident, a campfire gone wrong, a medical emergency during a retreat. Even if the association wasn't hosting the event, ownership still created exposure. The solution wasn't shutting down activities. It was requiring outside groups to carry their own event insurance and naming the association properly on those policies. That way, if something happened, the association's primary insurance wasn't the first line of defense. Another issue surfaced that could have caused serious problems later. The association wasn't consistently listed as the named insured on its own policies. In some cases, a member church was listed instead. That might not sound like a big deal, but during a claim, it can slow things down or derail the process entirely. Names matter. Ownership matters. Details matter. Once the association sat down with a church insurance specialist, the picture became much clearer. There wasn't one massive mistake. There were several small ones that added up to unnecessary risk. And those are exactly the kinds of things that only show up when someone understands how associations actually function. At Insurance for Texans, we work with churches and church associations across the state. Our True Texas Church insurance process starts with questions, not quotes. We want to understand how your properties are used, who controls events, how leadership is structured, and where responsibility truly lies. From there, we match you with insurance carriers that understand all that you have at risk. The association didn't just get a policy, they got clarity. and they got coverage that reflects how they really operate. If your association owns property, hosts events, or supports multiple churches, it's worth taking a closer look at how your insurance is structured. One conversation could prevent years of frustration later. Connect with our church insurance team at insurancefortexans.com. And if you would like a broader overview of church insurance, get a copy of our book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, protecting Texas churches. Remember, church associations have different needs than churches when it comes to insurance.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.